Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is January 4th, and you're listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today we have almost the whole crew with us, and we also have a really cool conversation or discussion topic today, and that is super alignment. So that is a term that I don't think necessarily OpenAI termed per se. I think it's been around longer than that, but OpenAI in recent months has sort of put a team together to focus on this topic of super alignment. And so that's sort of what the show is. Today we got Beth, Jyunmi, Karl, Andy, and I'm Brian. And we're going to do our best to kind of dig into this, talk about what it means, kind of give you a quick definition of it. Maybe I'll start there and then dive into why this is perhaps one of the most important things humans will do in the next decade, several years. There's a lot riding on this. I don't think we can under or overstate the importance of it. So what I want to do before we kick in, just so we have a definition that comes from one of the co-heads of OpenAI's super alignment team. That's a lot there. But Jan Leakey, a gentleman, I don't know if I'm saying it's Leike. And this is directly out of a interview. Let's start with your definition of alignment. What is an aligned model? This is what Jan says. What we want to do with alignment is we want to figure out how to make models that follow humans' intent and do what humans want. In particular, in situations where humans might not exactly know what they want. I think this is a pretty good working definition because you can say, what does it mean for, let's say, a personal dialogue assistant to be aligned? Well, it has to be helpful. It shouldn't lie to me. It shouldn't say stuff that I don't want it to say. So that was sort of his answer back to it. So maybe that's just a nice, easy stepping stone into this conversation. And then, I don't know, Beth, do you want to kind of take it from there, or anybody else that wants to open this up?
Well, the key here was that this is trying to solve a problem that is that all of the increasing capabilities of machine learning and models are facing, right? So we're still in a place where humans, for the most part, can supervise the machine learning, but everyone can see that that's that train is leaving the station and may already be slowly rolling out. The other thing about super alignment and super intelligence, in terms of OpenAI's communication, which also made me sort of interested in this topic, was the toward a general AGI mission that OpenAI has. Right? Yes, AGI. That's the main mission, but they're starting to talk more, and it's being reported more that super alignment or super intelligence actually is likely to be achieved in certain verticals before AGI, and so super alignment becomes super important because of super intelligence. And there are places where super intelligence is already happening. There's sort of a debate about is super intelligence, is it enough to qualify as super intelligence if it's just faster, right? If it can just do what humans can do superly, very fast, concurrently, those kinds of things. And so those are kind of the context in which this was a subject that I wanted to propose. Who else has some?
Well, let me clarify that super alignment is a luxury that can be afforded by the people who are sort of shepherding the very largest super intelligent models, and right. OpenAI is in the vanguard of that. So, but there are other players. But the idea of the sort of apocalyptic vision that's potential out there is that an independent and agent capable super model that achieves artificial general intelligence could, for its own reasons, decide to do something that's inconsistent with human interests. Right. And so what superalignment is an attempt to try to figure out strategies and tactics that could corral or curb, I should say, curb an AGI of very significant proportions, a very large model with great reach and great agency, to curb it so that it is designed from the start to be following the interests of humans. Now, that's in contrast. The reason I use the term luxuries, that's in contrast to the proliferation of very smart small models that are potentially the members of a swarm of AI that is in the hands of nefarious human actors and don't have any such curbs on them. So, there's like a space race possible here between the nefarious acting smaller models that are ganging together that don't have super alignment teams associated with them, trying to make sure that they follow the right direction. And these large, very intelligent models, very capable models, well-funded models like OpenAI's that will have those kinds of guides. So OpenAI started out as a nonprofit with an intention to build this kind of super aligned AI system. So it's really always following the sort of the prime directive that it's going to serve humans and human interests and not go awry, go rogue, and go out there and mess.
And there was, you have more?
I just wanted to make clear that it's all, the cat, as you say, is out of the bag, or you said the bus is leaving the station. Already it's possible for nefarious actors to use AI in ways against the interests of some humans and balkanize the AI landscape. So superalignment is a luxury in the sense that it's only going to apply to those very large models that are given that. And by the way, one of the ways that the OpenAI team anticipates doing that is by using a smaller, less powerful model to be a governor over the other one. But that requires that the larger model agree to submit to the smaller model. And we're not sure exactly whether that's possible with an AGI capable, really large, very smart system.
Right. And so that was the blip in the news that I was responding to in proposing this show. And that is the weak supervision model. And weak supervision has been used like the Google put out a paper in 2019. Like weak supervision is a concept that has been used in machine learning. It has typically been used for labeling data, and this is a new use for it, or a shift in the use for it. And the weak supervision, what they're testing is they have a model based on GPT-2 supervising GPT-4 and getting results of about GPT-3, GPT-3.5. And that is a simulation. Like they're running this like game simulations. Can this work? And the GPT-2 model is standing in for what humans would do.
Mm-hmm. Is that like a grade 6 trying to tell a college student kind of like instructions? Would that be like
no? It's the grade 6 student tattling to the human master when the college student goes out.
Ooh, master! Let's collaborate.
Well, we can always pull the plug, right? I mean.
Well,
we can.
One of the things that came up, I want to get back to what you guys would say, but one thing on this that I want to bring up that Jen was talking about in this article, by the way, fantastic article. I'll share the link, but it was spectrum.ieee.org. Interesting. I don't know that website other than reading this article, but spectrum.ieee.org. That's where I found this article and this interview. But one of the ways that you guys are talking about, like this idea of tattling or whatever, is they do expect that they will be able to use maybe the next model, maybe GPT-5 or whatever, to help with this concept. So it is using AI as an evaluation and tattletaling, if you like, tool for maybe this larger model. And one of the ways they think they have to do this is they have to build one way perhaps is to build an intentionally deceptive model so that you can go train against it and say, oh, we can tell, or we can dig in and understand better why, when this model is doing something that's not deceptive and this model is. And so one of the things they want to do is sort of, you got to create the virus, right, to create the cure. And so that's one of the things they're talking about, is we might have to create these deceptive models in order to better understand the differences between when it does and does not. And you'll be using AI as part of it. At the very bottom of this article, or this interview, was one of the things I thought was really cool, which was, let me see if I can find it real quick. It says, I've heard you, this is the interviewer saying this. I've heard you say that you're optimistic because you don't have to solve the problem of aligning super intelligent AI. You just have to solve the problem of aligning the next generation of AI. And can you talk more about it? And Jan says, basically, the idea is if you manage to make, let's say, a slightly superhuman AI sufficiently aligned, and we can trust its work on alignment research, then it would be more capable than us at doing this research, and also aligned enough that we could trust its work product. Now we've essentially already won, because we have ways to do alignment research faster and better than ever we could done ourselves. And at the same time, the goal seems a lot more achievable than trying to figure out how to actually align super intelligent ourselves. That's a huge statement. Basically, they're saying is like, we just have to figure out the next one. And if we can really, really, really trust the next one, it will do the job for us, because it will be aligned going in the right direction. I just think that's a really interesting way to look at a really, really complex problem. And that's still dumbing it down based on everything there. Okay, Let me throw it over to, I don't know, Jyunmi or Karl. I know you guys wanted to talk as well.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to give a little bit of a timeline of how this is developed. And like Andy said, they've been working on alignment from the get-go. In doing some research, I was finding articles back in 22 and all that around this, and OpenAI has been slowly building onto this. The latest news is when they announced that they were putting the super alignment team together back in July, and I found some recent articles about mid-December when OpenAI was releasing what they've worked on for those last few months. And the big thing that they're doing is they, in an effort to get more eyes on on super alignment in general, is they put together a $10 million fund to give grants to researchers, organizations, nonprofits, all of that, to help the fast grants to help get more eyes and more brain power on super alignment so that this can be solved. And they even put in suggestions on what were the aspects they were looking for, or they gave suggestions of what direction for the research. And of course, they mentioned the kind of work that they were doing already, stuff like that. But what's really nice about this is it's really open. They emphasize that if you are an ML researcher, or if you're just even a grad student getting into the space, they want to hear from you, and tangential organizations as well, where they're working on an aspect of super alignment, they want to hear from you. And so I think this goes a long way towards the importance, explaining the importance to the mainstream of like, these are important steps that we need to take, and it's going to take everybody's eyes and brains on this topic to make sure that it works, right?
Well, the deadline is February 18th, which is my birthday. So I say, as a Daily AI Show crew, we pull we've done a show now on this. So collectively,
So
I feel like we have
experts.
something to offer. I mean, maybe we won't get the $1 million grant, but I mean, come on, the lowest 100,000. I mean,
yeah. Well, I think there's a little jest in there, but it's not. That's not necessarily far off, because we talk about it and discuss it and disseminate to a larger group. Right, we're curating information and things like that. So that's an aspect of just information, right? Just making sure the information of the research gets out to everybody. I think that's a valid avenue to explore.
Hey,
all right.
Our first major sponsor is through a grant through OpenAI's super alignment, whether they realized it or not.
Right.
Karl, what's your take on this?
It was more of a wondering if an AGI will develop its own, like, is the super aligned team inputting a set of values into this AGI, and then will the AGI accept said values, or will it look at the values, analyze the values, and say, hey, this doesn't work. I'm going to, based on me being smarter than all of you, these values aren't aligned where I think, so I'm going to create my own set of values. That's what's kind of going into my mind. It's like, well, if they are smarter, wouldn't they analyze the values that they were fed against? So they would analyze the instructions that were put on it. So,
well, so there have been a couple people who have sort of talked about this and sort of moved toward that. At the moment, like machine learning models and like chat interfaces and that kind of stuff have not shown kind of the kind of internal initiative of like own goal that would need to do that. The bigger danger is like the paperclip problem, right? Where they have been given the goal that they need to find they need to, there's a paperclip, they're given supervision of a paperclip factory, and the problem is that there isn't enough iron to create paperclips. I don't know why they're making them out of iron, but that's the thing. And it turns out that humans are the most untapped source of iron, right? But that, again, that doesn't come from AI saying, you know, what would be cool is if we just like found all the sources of iron. That comes from a goal being given, and then it using its intelligence unaligned to move to solve that problem. And so, like, that's the place where we're talking about. It isn't so much, I think, that AI is going to go rogue in the way that we see in movies. At least not
Well,
right now.
I want to paint the picture of how it does happen. So it's not about a misaligned goal as much as it is the possibility of a society of mind, which is a term of art in AI, which is a group of very large models that work together and basically have a conversation with each other to arrive at some objective. And so, that's the paperclip, objective is a good example of one where there could be a conversation among AIs that says, okay, well, here's one possibility. Let's just melt down humans and get their iron. But the idea is that we believe that a society of mind is going to be possessed of enough of those AIs that are in that council that are going to say, no, that doesn't follow my instructions. I've been given alignment instructions, so that's not going to happen. The real worry is that there doesn't need to be too many AIs in a small group that can, pursue very quickly, like very, very as fast as OpenAI says they can apply AI to the question of superalignment, and accelerate the process of our thinking. So can a small group of conjoined or connected, just giving access to other AI models to one model creates the beginning of the ability to connect to many others. So there will be one of them in there that's a plant from some group that is a terrorist group, let's say, and is trying to trick the council in this society of mind to move in a bad direction. How do you make sure that in that scenario, which is happening way beyond our ability to supervise it, it's happening so fast in a group of AIs talking to each other that we just can't really, you need several other AIs to be watching what they do. And that level of strong supervision with a society of mind group of AIs is a hard one to imagine us really being able to muster and control. So that I'm still worried. I'm not happy that there's just one group, OpenAI, that has a super alignment team.
There are others, I'm sure.
I'm sure there are, but that's the only one I've heard about, and it's the only place where the term super alignment has been routinely used, because they're the ones who are trying to take this sort of enlightened approach to the development of AI.
And by the way, they've said that like they want to solve this in 4 years, which is incredibly fast when you think about it. One of the things that I got from all the research I did was not only Jan, but the team in general are fairly positive. This is a big thing, but they're fairly positive that they have some really good ideas that have shown some early successes that they feel like they have the right direction to go. They don't have the solution for it today, but that's the whole point of this, is that they want to assemble a team, the fast grants, all this stuff. They're going to put, one thing we haven't mentioned is it was said several times, they're devoting 20% of all their compute power to date towards this. I don't know what the number would be on 20% of what OpenAI has compute power, but it's a lot. So that's significant. And one of the things that Jen mentioned was this idea of self-exfiltrate. And I'm sure I say that right, but self-exfiltrate, EXFILTRATE. And even the interviewer was like, can you explain that? Because I don't think everybody will necessarily know what that is. And I was like, fantastic, because I don't know what that means. I can guess, but I know. But Jan actually said, so the basic idea is, how hard would it be for a model to steal its own weights? And this was interesting.
To steal its own weights?
Weights. He said because if it can steal its own weights, it can basically copy them from an AGI lab where it's been trained to some other external server and then be effectively out of control of the lab. And so whatever it does afterwards may be benign. Maybe it gets up to a bunch of crime or even worse. But at that point, it'll be really hard to stop. So an important line of defense is to make sure these models can't self-exfiltrate. And it says basically, he said there's 3 different ways that could happen. It could persuade an OpenAI member to help copy them. It could use social engineering to pretend to be someone else and trick somebody into this. Or it figures out how to basically jailbreak itself with technical measures that we put in place to secure the model. So our goal here would to be understand exactly where the model's capabilities are in each of these tasks and try to make a scaling law and extrapolate where it could be within the next generation. So Jan is essentially saying, look, what we don't want to happen here is its ability to grab its own weights, because then this does become maybe a Pandora's box that we can't do much about. And I wonder, Andy, in your sort of point of this, which is, okay, great, OpenAI is doing this, so maybe they can do this internally with their own models. But what do you do about all the other open source ones? And I don't know the answer to that. It seems to me, maybe based on what I read, that even so, if OpenAI was able to create these other AI models that are essentially the police and are able to help them dig in, then I get the impression that if we had that would help against any other AI. I could be wrong, totally wrong about that. But I get the impression that it almost becomes, if you solve the problem, it would work even if it wasn't the language model that you created or owned. It doesn't have to be a ChatGPT or an OpenAI product per se. It could be Mixtral or any of the others that'll pop up in the next 5 years. That was my impression. Does anybody get that differently, or that's the way I read it though?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's because of the, for lack of a better term, these known techniques for testing, for auditing, for governance and things like that. Those kinds of specified or specifically developed AIs will be helpful in a general sense. Now, with the speed that they develop, it could just be, a mad thing at this point, just trying one-upping each other right now. And that's kind of how digital security is just trying to find the holes in the previous thing and fill them up or build on top of that once you recognize them. So I think that kind of approach will be applied in that space as well. Karl?
I think when you start looking at where, just for example, we're seeing, Galaxy AI, and then I saw LG going into several things. So all these different companies will they all copy each other. So they're all going to try to put some sort of local large language model inside their system, whatever that is. So that's today. So once a group, let's say OpenAI, has created some sort of super computer or an AGI, it would be reasonable to think that that would trickle down in a way that it isn't just one AGI. Each company is going to create their own type of AGI, and then will you be getting an AGI on your personal device or somehow personalized to you? That would be the question. And what happens when these AGIs start competing with each other? So, and that's a little far off, but that's kind of where you see where things are going today. So it would be reasonable to assume that that would be where you're going to go. It
Yeah,
isn't
so
just one.
I can imagine in a future cyber war that's playing out among AIs to AIs,
Yeah.
that all of these smaller devices will be ganged by the sort of the director nefarious AI to do a denial of service attack on the ones that are trying to police the system. Right. So
Yeah.
they'll figure out ways to exploit the availability of smaller, less powerful, and less aligned models out there, the open source models and so on, that haven't been pre-trained to have super alignment as an objective. That it's just scary, that these things could happen, and it's not going to be triggered by AI itself. AI doesn't have a natural inclination
Right.
to fool humans. It's going to be humans exploiting
Oh, yeah.
AI to try to damage or deter the collective enlightenment of the AIs that exist out there with AGI.
And I want to point out this just so that people don't get too scared because of all the different things. But no. But everyone should know that this kind of approach, bad actors using technology and all that stuff, that is the norm. All right. Every new technology will be used by good actors and bad actors for whatever. And then
Right.
we have to adapt. And that's what, cybersecurity is all developed around and whatnot. So all of this having, like when Andy mentioned the, denial of service attack, basically creating zombie networks of smaller compute sources so that they can hit thousands or millions of times to a site or whatnot. That all of that exists already, and it is all instigated by humans. The question is that AI, since it's we'll call it a newer technology, or at least in the mainstream, is that it has the ability to do it faster and better, right? So I think the real concern is the speed in which it can go global is much faster than that can be done now. And the barrier is lower for people who want to use it for whatever purposes. So, we've got a balancing of scales issue here.
Right. And to Brian's
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll bring this up in a second. Go ahead.
cool. To Brian's point from the article, we don't necessarily need to solve like super high. We just, in this back and forth, need to be one level up. And it sounds like part of what they're doing is doing machine learning, red teaming, machine learning, right?
Yeah.
And if that balance is reliable, right, that may be something. There's a part of me that wonders if this is also kind of like I'm sometimes fascinated that we all stop at stop signs when there's no one else around, right? And like that's just sort of like a human agreement that we all have. And
Right.
is there an aspect of this that like this becomes kind of the culture of what it's the next most likely answer, right? It's the predictable answer. It's the next, like behaving well is sort of the inertia choice. That may be wildly optimistic, but okay, Brian.
I just want to bring this real quick as we wrap it up. Emmett asked a great question. EGI definition. I think, Emmett, you're hearing us say AGI, and that stands for Artificial General Intelligence. And AGI is, as we're learning more, it's probably not one singular moment. It could happen in many different modalities. It could happen in different industries and stuff like that. But AGI, as a general, is a point at which the artificial intelligence, the ChatGPTs of the world, to keep it basic, are more intelligent than humans. They've surpassed human intelligence. So that's that AGI is artificial general intelligence. And then we also have mentioned super intelligence, which, not to get confused, as I read about that is perhaps beyond that singular point of AGI. Super intelligence would be a little bit higher up the chain.
No,
particularly because the standard of human general intelligence is not a high bar.
No. And I'm going to say
Am I wrong on that?
Super intelligence is usually discussed within a smaller, so it's not general, it's super within one area. And it's likely that super intelligence gets realized in a couple different areas before a general. Right.
Got it backwards then. Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you, Beth. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. Emmett, I see your comment. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm glad. Great question, by the way. I love when people throw those in there because we do get used to using some of these acronyms and terms. And it's a great call out to just slow down sometimes and make sure we're spelling things out for our audience. So thank you for that. All right, we'll wrap this one up. Really interesting topic. This will not be the only time we talk about superalignment because obviously OpenAI is building their team. They're bringing in people with the fast grants. There's going to be a lot more here, and truthfully, 4 years is a maybe in the scope of 2023 doesn't sound like very long because so much happened in 2023. But it's a short period of time, so it'll be really interesting to see how this progresses. I am sure there'll be a lot more about this in 2024, and we'll speak about it as it comes up. So great conversation. Tomorrow we have a talk that I hope everybody finds helpful, which is prompt engineering. Now, prompt engineering has been talked about pretty much for a year at this point, a little bit more since the first early days of ChatGPT. And it was like, hey, how do you get a great result out of this? You could put that into Midjourney. How do you get a great image? And these things are changing all the time. And what I thought was, with also OpenAI, they put out some new papers on prompt engineering. I thought, you know what? It's the beginning of 2024. Let's talk about best practices for prompt engineering in 2024. So not so much what was maybe working or not working, because things have changed. And what we used to have to do maybe in August or July or May of 2023, you may no longer have to do. Things have gotten easier. So we'll talk about all of that tomorrow. So I highly recommend people coming back and checking out that show because I think you're going to get a lot out of it. And it's going to give you a lot of tools you need to be really successful with AI as you start or continue your AI journey in 2024. So that's coming back tomorrow. Thanks to everybody. This was a lot of fun. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Until then.
Aloha.
Bye.